Absolutely, absolutely beautiful, Joe. Daniel Nahmod song. Now, I do want to tell you that, hold on to that vision you had of Joe just right there, because after service, you're going to be experiencing a little something else with this man. Joe's going to be like letting loose, so it'll be fun. And if you didn't get to come to see Daniel Nahmod on Friday night, it was amazing. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. His man comes from his heart. He is so incredibly talented. So I just want to encourage you to make sure that when he comes back to come and experience everybody here. And the concert went till almost 10 o'clock. And like, I don't know if anybody left, but if anybody did leave, it was just a couple people. That's how amazing this man is. So, yes. Okay, so for the past few weeks, I've been sharing some really deep truths from this amazing lady, Imelda Shanklin. She was a Unity minister, got ordained in 1918, and just has some really wonderful, deep material. Today, I'm also going to be sharing some really good stuff from another amazing Unity minister, and that's Reverend Eric Butterworth. And Eric ministered the church in New York for years and years and years. And the thing, I've shared this before, the thing I like about Imelda and I like about Eric Butterworth and Myrtle Fillmore is they don't cut us any slack. They go bam, right into the truth. And sometimes like when I'm reading stuff, can kind of go, kind of take me back, but then I sit with it and I can be there with it and understand it and get it. So I love that. I like being challenged in a way that makes me really step outside of those programs that I've carried for so long. So hopefully you'll feel some of that today as well. Eric Butterworth says that it has been said, when the ties that bind the mind are broken and a person is introduced to his real self that has no limitations, the bells of heaven ring for joy. I want you to hear that again. When the ties that bind the mind are broken, when the ties that have kept us in this place where we're having that small thinking, when that's finally broken, I love that. Then the real self, we recognize that we have no limitations. It's only the limitations that we think that we have. He goes on to say, as the universe rushes and streams into you from all sides, it is a veritable cosmic celebration of ecstasy. It could be said, and should be, that you are the universe celebrating itself as you. Isn't that wonderful? That's every single one of us here. We're the universe celebrating itself as each of us. That is so beautiful. Well, what we do know is that life is precious. And that becomes so much more apparent when someone that we love dies, expectedly or unexpectedly, when either ourselves or someone that we love is diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, when there's a debilitation of some kind, when something just falls apart in our lives, we really recognize the preciousness of life. This week, especially for some reason, there's been a lot of transition around our community and just kind of around life. A lady that lives across the street from me, I found out that she was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer at the end of a month, like at the end of 1 month, but 2 months later, she was gone. It was just that fast. And I know one of our congregants, her sister was carrying a sewing machine down the basement stairs, and she fell, and she never regained consciousness, and she was like 55, 56 years old. And then Sylvia Richardson, her mom transitioned this week, and Christine Rogers, her brother David, actually transitioned this morning, and we have another congregant whose brother transitioned. So it's been really just so present for me this week to really, look at this thing that we call life, and to get it, how important life is, how important this existence is of ours, how precious it is. It's so precious, and we take it for granted a lot, don't we? We do. That's just our humanness. But we have an opportunity to be with it so differently. I want to read to you from On the Care of a Fine Antique. This is Harry Sparks' autobiography. Most of you know Harry Sparks is our 98-year young man. In the preface of his book, he has this reading called Youth by Samuel Ullman. And it says, youth is not a time of life. It is a state of mind. It is not a matter of rosy cheeks, red lips, and supple knees. It is a matter of will, a quality of the imagination, a vigor of the emotions. It is the freshness of the deep springs of life. Youth means a temperamental predominance of courage over timidity, of the appetite for adventure over the love of ease. This often exists in a man of 60 more than a boy of 20. Nobody grows old merely by living a number of years. We grow old by deserting our ideals. Years may wrinkle the skin, I love this, but to give up enthusiasm wrinkles the soul. Worry, fear, self-doubt loathes the heart and turns the spirit back to dust. Now, I know on that, the scripture this morning, it was so funny because Dee's in the office, right next to me, and I give her this stuff, and she yells across, "I don't like this scripture." And I said, I get it, but it's true that, that how we are being with life really makes a difference in our physical bodies. And when we're in a really negative, woe is me, life is piled up on me, when we're in that state, it literally affects us physically. It dries up the bones in a very real sense. Okay, years. Oh yeah, I did that already. Whether 60 or 16, there is in every human being's heart the lure of wonder, the unfailing childlike curiosity of what's next, and the joy of the game of living in the center of your heart. And so it is. Beautiful. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about age. Does anybody ever think about age in here? Ever? Okay, well, we're gonna take a new look at this thing that we call age, and we're gonna start with Imelda Shanklin. Imelda says, time inhibits. You look back at an event and you say, that was a long time ago. Then you begin to feel old. A feeling of old age includes a feeling of inability. You look forward in computation of your remaining time in the fictitious world, and you say, my grandfather lived to be 80. My mother made the transition at 70. I still have perhaps 30, perhaps 20 years. Then your thoughts begin to shrivel. Your body takes up the mental cue and acts upon it. You feel that life has to do with time, but you are wrong. Experience has to do with time. Life has to do with eternity. And how many times have you heard somebody say, or maybe even have said yourself, wow, my parents lived until they were, into their old age. I have good genes. I'm going to live a long time. Or we say the opposite. And I even had a friend whose mother died at a certain age, and she was just sure that she was going to die at that age. And, and so her experience was not very good for like a year because she really thought that she was going to go at that time. And really all it's saying here is that the moment that we decide, and I love how it says your thoughts begin to shrivel, and then your body takes that mental cue and it begins to act upon it. So she goes on to say that years do not make you old. Years are your accumulation of experiences. Instead of saying I'm 70 years old, I'm 70 years of experience. I have 80 years of experience. I have 50 years of experience, because isn't that true? Yeah, that's so true. You are the identity that you were before birth. That identity is never taken from you. The man of 80 years experience is the same man that he was at 60, 40, 20 years. Now, here's the thing about this. We are going to want to argue. We are going to want to be in our limitations and say there's no way. But it's true. But it's absolutely true, because that same life force that was in us before we incarnated is here in the same degree at this point in time, whatever age we are. It's the same life force, but we've forgotten. And programming has told us, well, as you get older, that life force kind of starts ebbing, and, all these things start happening to us. But it's the same life force. She says, life is real, age is fictitious. Get that distinction and you will understand that age is a habit to be avoided. You will understand that years alone do not lessen your ability. You will understand that your regard for years is the cause of decline in your confidence toward life, and that decline of confidence marks your body with what you call age. You now should be a more capable man, a more capable woman than you were 20 years ago. Wow. Isn't that interesting? And yet, because no matter what age we are here today or listening to this message is for every single one of us. That and getting it and understanding that we have been given such error thinking and limiting ideas about this that we call age, about the aging process itself. And it's so important for us to really wake up to that. So Eric Butterworth, in his book, Celebrate Life, has a chapter that he calls Live the Uncommon Sense Way. I love Eric Butterworth because he always says these kinds of things where it's like he goes the opposite of what we would normally say. So live the uncommon sense way. And he says to live the common sense way is actually a very conservative way to live. And it's generally based on what has happened before us and what are the paradigms of what has happened before us. And so common sense says that some conditions are incurable. Common sense says that when we get older, we're going to lose our eyesight. Common sense says that when we get older, that we're not going to have the same brain capacity and we're going to forget. Common sense tells us that as we get older, that we're not going to be as agile as we used to be. That's what common sense has told us, right? That's what we've been told. That's the truth that we've been given for all of our lives, correct? We have been given that as yes, this is exactly what it is. And he says it's almost frightening to discover how many broken records of self-limitation we play for ourselves. Because we tell ourselves, and again, we talked about this last week. We have the subconsciousness, the consciousness, and the superconsciousness. But this subconsciousness is that consciousness level of us where we're not even aware. We're not even aware that those records are playing. And that's what we have to wake up to. And you know how we know it? We know it by the words that we're speaking. We know it by the actions that we're taking or the actions that we're not taking. That's how we know that these subconscious things are going on. And that's when we wake up. Eric tells a story about a little girl who fell on the sidewalk and she fell really hard on her knee and it was really bummed up. But she was sitting there and she was just kind of holding her knee, but she wasn't whimpering or anything. So he went over to her and he said, "Can I help you?" And she goes, No, I'm okay. And he said, "But how? How are you not crying right now? Because that really has to hurt." And she said, "Well, I just tell myself to stop it, and then I make myself mind me." And I love that because you guys, we know about the stop it thing, right? We've done the stop it thing. We know about the stop it thing, but I love that. Then we have to tell ourselves to mind ourselves and to listen to ourselves and to start doing something so differently. So I want to share with you about the power of words. A story that Imelda Shanklin tells in her book. And I was going to ad-lib it, but it's so much better when it's spoken in her words. So she said, "We were 3 girls in mid-teens. My companions asked me to tell them a ghost story. I had told them ghost stories on other occasions, but never before amid such favorable conditions. We were in a lamp-lit room of a small, isolated house. The night was dark and windy. Tree boughs moaned, doors shook. At intervals, the air sighed eerily about the house. With secret zest, I acquiesced in their demand. I gave my imagination rein and spur. My companions began to respond. They shuddered, but still smiled. I saw that to give them the stimulation that they were expecting, I should have to do better than I was doing. I did better. I heaped horror on horror. My companions ceased to smile. They cast fearful glances at open doorways to dark rooms. They clutched at each other, and they eyed me expectantly. I was much encouraged by their appreciation. I broke all bounds. Possibilities were spurned and impossibilities were transcended. Gruesome situations, gruesome objects were depicted with mounting fervor. My audience was responding most satisfactorily. Then, all at once, without the slightest warning on the land of terrors into which my own fabrications had taken me, I believed that story myself. I sat rigid, frozen by the creations of my own fantastically misguided imagination. My companions shouted with laughter. They took hold of me and shook me to break the hideous nightmare that I had created for myself. I dazed with relief when I realized my commonplace surroundings. Later, I became aware that I was telling myself ghost stories of another thought. And I recognized that these ghost stories had a similar effect to the story that I had told that day. And I think that that's really so much of what we're trying to get to here, you guys, is we tell ourselves ghost stories. We tell ourselves scary stories all the time. It's funny because I did it this past week. I'm remembering now because I got a bite in the middle of the night. And this bite got this big round red thing on it. And the bite like really bumped up like none other, And I even went to Paul and said, honey, help me keep a watch on this because I'm not about this bite. And what do? We get on the internet. And we check it out. Oh my God. Oh, sorry. But and we tell ourselves scary stories, and we do this, with so many things. How many of us have had some illness come upon us? We go to the internet, which is technology is great, but it is a two-edged sword. We go to the internet and we start looking up all the stuff. And then we get freaked out. And before you know it, we've got all these ideas. And sometimes we even have ourselves already, our services already planned. We're already, it's done deal because we've told ourselves, these scary ghost stories. And Eric says we must learn to discipline ourselves in the things that we say to ourselves. We should say only what we want to become a reality. That's easy, isn't it? It's a simple truth, but it's not easy. And how many times do words come out of our mouth that support exactly what we do not want to experience in our lives? How many times? Yeah. And so it's waking up and becoming aware of that. And, I think about, so I got online, to do a lot of research online. And I was looking up, okay, what is the truth about that our brains do not have the same capacity as we get older as when we were younger? Well, you know what I found? Different answers. Different answers. And so I'm like, so here's what I came to. If I'm going to tell myself a story, why wouldn't I tell myself a really good one? Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I err on the side of, wow, my sight's getting better every day? Why wouldn't I err on the side of my body is getting stronger every day? My meditation lately, and I've loved it so much, is I actually go through my body, and it's kind of from Myrtle, but I literally talk to my brain and I thank it, and I thank it for how youthful it is and how all the synapses are snapping and everything is going in the perfect way, and how I have great recall and my memory is so clear, and I talk to my eyes and I thank them for, oh my gosh, everything that I can see. It's breathtaking, and I thank them that every day they're becoming more youthful, and I speak to my ears for what I can hear, and I speak to my nose because I'm so grateful that I can smell, and I speak to that I can talk and that I can taste, and I speak to my heart, I speak to all of my organs, and I speak to my skeletal system, and I'm so grateful for how strong it is and for how it supports me and all of the muscles and ligaments that keep all these bones together and my joints. I literally go through my entire body, including my skin, and I thank it, and I affirm with it that life, that same life that was there before I incarnated, that same life that was there the moment that I was born, that same energy is right here, right now. And the only thing that keeps it from expressing in its fullest is me. And it's this. Combined with my heart, when my mind says something is true and my heart agrees, that's powerful. So start telling yourself a different story. Start blessing this body, this life energy. And bless this body. Give thanks for it. Affirm how wonderful it is. And here's the thing, is that we have to continue to do it even when the evidence is not appearing real. Because you know what? I can't take my glasses off right now and go, oh, I can see everybody perfectly clear. But I can continue to know that my eyesight is getting clearer and clearer every day. And know it, 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 and know it. We cannot just do it and then go back out, as we've talked about this many times, and start complaining again about my eyesight or about, we have to really stay focused and stay awake and stay aware. And here's the thing. I know that our human mind wants to say, but no, it cannot be for me. I'm too old, or my eyesight's too far gone. Or, I've had this arthritis for all these years. But you're fighting for your limitations. And why would you want to expend that energy when you could be directing that energy? And as we talked about last week, moving, taking the time daily to move beyond that subconscious, to move beyond consciousness, to move beyond the consciousness into the super consciousness, and just let yourself be filled with that. That's life. The purity, the power of life that will do mighty things in every single person. Every person. The other aspect of life, of course, is what are we doing with our life? Are we holding back? Daniel Nahman had this awesome song called "Why Wait," and the song was really about why do we wait until something happens before the things that are important to us become really important? Why do we wait? The song is, if you knew that you only had so long to live, what would you do? How would you be living your life? He talks about, why do we wait until a major catastrophe occurs like 9/11 before we see each other? And we're there for each other no matter what. Why wait? What is it that's stopping us? What is it that's keeping us from, and especially, and here's what I'm going to say, especially as we have more experience, years of experience in our life, what is it? Have we given something up, or have we given into life? Because the thing that keeps us youthful is to continue to learn and to grow and to be involved and to expand. I know I shared this with you before, but a year and a half ago I started taking guitar lessons, and there wasn't one iota in me that said, I can't do that. I'm not going to be able to get that. Not one iota. And I look around at our people. Oh my gosh, I am blown away all the time, sincerely blown away all the time, when I'll be talking to somebody and they'll tell me their age. And almost without fail, many of you know it because I've done it to many of you, I'll be like, what? Because there's no conception that age can keep them from being vibrant and being involved and being connected and doing new things. And that's absolutely true. G and Jim Stiles were sitting here this morning. G is like 80, she's in her 80s. And like when she turned 80, she was still running a marathon. And she came up to me after service and she said, I started taking ukulele lessons, and we put these limits on ourselves because how many of us at 80 would think, oh yeah, I'll start taking some type of a lesson in something, and it's just opening ourselves up to the only limits that we have are the limits that we place on ourselves. And I'm not saying that maybe in your life today you may have some physical limitations, but what I'm saying is that most of the limitation is in our mind, because we may have some physical limitation and we create big, ginormous stories about that limitation. And so ours is to start focusing on life, and on possibilities and potentiality, and make up great stories about yourself. Make up great stories about yourself, and make them and say them over and over again. Tell yourself those stories over and over again. And you're going to start believing them. And I'll tell you, once you get to that place where your feeling energy is connected, that's the creative moment. That's when it's like, woo, vibrations and energy, and wow, amazing, almost miraculous things occur when we get there. And every single one of us can get there. So we're going to close today. Let me go. Okay. With this affirmation. So I invite us to say this affirmation together with power and with strength and with a knowingness that this is true for us. Okay. So together, I am what I think. I think life. The life of God is released in me and pours forth through me with a mighty power that brings new life to my entire being. I celebrate life, and so it is, and so it shall be. Namaste. Namaste.